The flight attendant's voice rose, loud enough for all to hear. "I'm asking you one last time. Move to the back of the plane, or I'll call security." Her words were sharp, laced with condescension. Naomi, the black woman, remained as composed as ever. She lifted her gaze toward the attendant, her expression unwavering. "I've already told you, I'm not moving," she stated simply. Her voice was even, almost soothing, yet carried a quiet strength that couldn't be ignored. She was being humiliated in front of everyone. But no one expected what would come next, when the woman they assumed was powerless stood up and revealed who she really was. Before we dive further into the story, if you believe everyone deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of their skin color, hit the subscribe button now, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. The plane gleamed under the golden afternoon sun, its sleek exterior promising a luxurious journey. Inside, the cabin was nothing short of opulent. Plush leather seats, gold-accented details, and an air of exclusivity surrounded the passengers, making them feel like royalty. Travelers moved about, their high-end luggage gliding smoothly behind them as they were ushered toward the private jet waiting on the tarmac. Once inside, passengers settled in, some scrolling through their devices, others sipping champagne offered by the attentive flight crew. Soft ambient music played in the background, setting the mood for an effortless, elite experience. Among them was Naomi Williams, a poised woman in her late 30s, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy blazer and matching slacks. She carried an air of quiet elegance, moving with confidence, yet never seeking attention. Naomi stepped into the cabin, her presence subtle yet commanding. Her movements were measured, her gaze sweeping briefly across the space before she proceeded to her seat. This wasn't just another trip, it was a journey to oversee the expansion of her growing empire. Though no one on board knew her identity just yet, she preferred it that way. Standing near the entrance was Lauren, the lead flight attendant. Her uniform was impeccable, her sharp features exuding authority. As passengers boarded, she greeted them one by one, her smile warm for some, noticeably colder for others. Lauren prided herself on maintaining order in the cabin, though, for her, order often depended on appearances. When Naomi approached, Lauren's demeanor shifted. Her greeting lacked warmth, her words clipped. "Welcome aboard," she said curtly. Behind Naomi sat Mr. and Mrs. Raymond, a well-traveled couple in their 60s. Mrs. Raymond clutched a small knitting bag, her fingers itching to begin her work. Mr. Raymond, holding a neatly folded newspaper, observed the scene with mild curiosity. Lauren's smile brightened for them. "Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Raymond. Lovely to have you with us again." Naomi glanced over her shoulder, noticing the stark contrast in tone. Though her face remained calm, her eyes reflected an understanding of the unspoken dynamics at play. As the passengers settled in, Lauren made her way through the cabin, ensuring everything was in order. She checked on the Raymonds, offering a warm smile. "Can I get you anything before takeoff?" she asked. Mrs. Raymond, already focused on her knitting, shook her head politely. Mr. Raymond nodded toward his coffee. No further service was needed. However, when Lauren passed by Naomi, her expression shifted again. Her eyes flicked toward Naomi's neatly placed bag under the seat, lips pressing into a thin line. Without a word, she walked past. Ever been in a situation where someone's attitude shifted just because of appearances? Share your experience in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more thought-provoking stories. Lauren Reed, in her early 40s, carried herself like someone who thrived on control. Every part of her, from her pristine uniform to her neatly styled hair, was carefully curated to exude authority. To her, appearances meant everything, and her judgments were swift and unapologetic. As she watched Naomi settle into her seat, something about her didn't sit right. It wasn't her clothing. It wasn't even her calm self-assurance. It was the fact that Naomi didn't seek validation, unlike the passengers Lauren deemed worthy of respect. In Lauren's mind, Naomi simply didn't belong. With quick, purposeful strides, she approached, a tight smile curling on her lips. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said, her voice polite yet dripping with condescension. I think you're in the wrong section. Naomi looked up, her expression unwavering. I believe this is my seat, she replied, her voice steady. Lauren's smile remained, but her tone sharpened. I don't think so. This section is reserved for our elite passengers. Nearby, others took notice. A nosy socialite leaned in slightly, eager for a better view. Across the aisle, a businessman frowned at Lauren's tone, his interest piqued. Still composed, Naomi met Lauren's gaze. You may want to check your passenger list before making assumptions, she suggested. Lauren's brows arched, irritation flickering across her face. I don't need to check anything, she snapped. I know exactly who belongs here. The tension thickened. Passengers exchanged quiet whispers. One muttered, why doesn't she just move if she's in the wrong seat? Another shrugged, probably trying to sneak in for a free upgrade. Lauren crossed her arms, standing her ground. If you don't move right now, I'll have to call security, she announced, her voice loud enough for all to hear. Naomi tilted her head slightly, her calm unwavering. Call whoever you need to, she said. I'm not moving. A soft gasp escaped the socialite. The businessman leaned forward, brows furrowed. Frustration etched across Lauren's face. She turned toward her junior flight attendant, Grace, who stood nearby, uncertain. Grace, she snapped. Escort her to the back. Now. Grace hesitated, glancing between the two women. She wanted to speak up, to suggest checking the list, but Lauren's sharp glare froze her. Reluctantly, she nodded and stepped forward. Naomi shifted slightly in her seat, her composure unshaken. I'd think carefully about what you're doing, she said softly, her words carrying more weight than Lauren realized. Lauren scoffed, waving off the warning. I know exactly what I'm doing, she retorted. Now, get up. What would you do if someone treated you this way during a flight? Tell us in the comments, and if you're hooked on this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Lauren's patience wore thin. She gestured again. You're not supposed to be here, she repeated, her voice laced with irritation. Passengers watched, tension crackling in the air. Naomi remained steady. You should make assumptions about people, she said quietly. Lauren's smirk widened. And you shouldn't be in seats you didn't pay for. The moment hung in the air. Then, Naomi picked up her phone, her expression unchanged. She typed something quickly and set it down on the armrest. You're making a mistake, she said simply. Lauren barely heard her. We'll see about that, she muttered, signaling for Grace to act. But as the tension thickened, passengers watched in stunned silence, unaware of the storm about to unfold.